Good morning and welcome to a new week of Project Purdey. Now, as you can see, Purdey's already slightly come apart, and we always knew that we had to do that because we've got a lot of work to do here. That's for connecting the wiring. We've got that manifold to change that you saw on last week's episode. So we need to concentrate now on getting Purdey running. The time is ticking down and we have a lot to do.
One of the first jobs is reconnecting all of the brake lines that we disconnected so that when Purdey went to safety devices, she was dry and there wasn't anything that would stop them lifting the body up to do the modifications that they needed to do on the chassis so that the roll cage feet actually had mounting plates.
So we hope all the brake pipes have been connected up. And this is the moment of truth where we put the brake fluid into the reservoir. So cross your fingers. Well, I can't hear any drips yet, so that seems to be a good sign.
Next, we have to bleed the brake system, which involves a bit of pumping of the pedal. Nobody said you needed to go to the gym to be a Land Rover driver. Eventually, after many pumps and a bit of bleeding, we actually get a nice firm brake pedal and move on to the clutch, but that's slightly less successful. So despite topping everything up and checking all the connections, we leave that for now and move on to something else.
In amongst doing all the wiring, one of the things that we had to address was where the ECU lives. Obviously, this is integral to making the car work. That's the little brain that makes everything function. And normally that would be underneath the seat. But because we've got the seat box, we'll have a solid top, and we've got the rally seats here, we can't have it there because then it's not accessible. So this seems to be a good place to put it where it's out of the way, but that we can still get to it if we need to. And there's quite a lot of things that have got to come off the top of the engine to allow us to get to the manifold, which is underneath this heat shield. But that will allow us to do some other jobs while we're there. Now you can see the manifold. To get to the manifold, we have to take the turbo off, which means that we also have to disconnect this seriously beautiful piece of demand exhaust engineering. Just look at that. That's what you call a big bore exhaust. While we're talking about the demand exhaust, just wanted to show you this bit here and the exit, because this is absolutely gorgeous with the little crosshairs in. They don't really serve any purpose apart from aesthetic. And the custom plate, which has obviously got the demand logo on. I love that Dan's painted red behind it. Very cool. Taking that turbo off lets us actually get access, or easy access, to the filters. Before we change this, we're just looking at the differences between these two manifolds, and they are quite significantly different. The ports on this new one are much longer than the old one. I don't really understand what the significance of that is, but yeah. It's also quite amusing that this is made in France. So this manifold's been from France to the UK, and now it's back in France again. This is a kind of weird little filter which spins round. It's like a second oil filter, which is normally a real pain to get to, but with everything off, it's quite easy to get to. So I think we're probably going to change that, aren't we?
We are.
So the old manifold is now off, which has revealed some interesting things here. So as you can see, some of these studs have been replaced with longer ones. These two down here seem to have been drilled out for a different size stud. And these ones here are the original ones. So we wonder if there's actually been previously a warping issue with the manifold. So yeah, there was two gaskets on this, which is all a bit strange. So that's something to investigate. I'm just showing you here the difference between these two manifolds.
And when we've put a straight edge on the old manifold, you can clearly see that there's a definite warp in it.
We've got what you might call a bit of a problem, because one of the studs out of the manifold that we're trying to take out won't come out. It's now stuck and it's sheared off. So we've got Chris here to try and help us get it out.
With nothing else working, we resort to welding on a nut onto the sheared off stud, which will hopefully give enough purchase so that we can actually get it to move.
But yeah, it's out. This is it.
Drill it up, I can tell you, drilling those. You got
This hole needed modification for the bigger studs.
Well, the new manifold is on after all that palaver with the studs. So we have a precise Newton meter setting, torque setting for these bolts of 25. So we're using this little gauge, you've seen this before, to make sure that we get that right. So we've got an exciting new game now. It's called Hose Match. This is better than playing on your telephone. So this is the hose that we've just taken off. This is hopefully the hose that's going to replace it. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that one's good. We've only got that little pile down there still to do. When you're fitting pipes, what you need is hose clips. Suddenly we seem to have a lot of hose clips, but that's good. You can never have too many hose clips.
Right, I'm not going to do them up yet.
Okay. Some wiring needed fixing for this fuel pressure switch because one of these wires was broken. So that's another little job done.
And this rather beautiful header tank is now in place.
Okay, hose match update. Lots of hoses are in place. There's some that are on the top here that we can't actually find a home for, and others that we don't seem to have. So we're not really quite sure
whether we've got everything we need or not, to be honest. It's a bit of a conundrum. In other news, the intercooler is in, looking resplendent. Not quite sure whether we actually can keep these or not, because they might be in the way when everything is bolted up, but that's progress for today. Today's dilemma is galvanised wings, inner wings, or plastic inner wings. As we build Purdey back up, we're putting the inner wings in. Honestly, these aren't the inner wings we expected to use. We were going to use the galvanised ones that came out of the donor Purdey car. But we've decided, as this isn't a restoration, as has been pointed out to me, that the plastic inner wings are lighter and therefore better for our planned use of Purdey. So now, with most of the blue hoses in place, this nice little machined AlliSport bit for the EGR delete, we're going to put the wiring loom on that comes down to the headlights. And this wiring loom is a part, genuine Land Rover part, that was supplied to us by Eurospare. Thank you, Eurospare. We want to get some power through the system, through the electrical system, so that we can check that the wiring that we're putting in is actually all working. However, this is not exactly going to plan.
Nothing, no power is getting into here as far as I can see.
No, doesn't look like it, does it?
Because that isn't lit up at all.
No, it's definitely nothing on the nanocom.
And we've definitely got power to there. And every fuse, yeah, all the fuses are okay. Something in the inertia switch, because that controls.
Do you know a lot about TD5 engines, Casper?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, that's very fine.
I slept on some.
Yeah, that's where the oil goes, Casper. We can't make it run though. What do you think, Casper? We might not be able to connect the ECU, but we have managed to get some of the light circuits working. Yeah, just on one side.
Yeah, I just said I haven't got a connector for the other side.
Okay. We're at the end of another week. It's been a slightly frustrating week, if I'm honest. Firstly, with the problem with getting the manifold studs out, but that's all fixed now. And now we're on to electrics. And this is a little bit out of our comfort zone, to be honest, because Priscilla and Delilah don't have all this wire that Purdey's got. And to date, we've only been semi-successful with what we want to do. For some reason, we can't get power to the ECU, which is obviously really important because that's the little brain that makes her work. So we're going to have a break, and next week going to come back with a clear head and see if we can work it out. If you've enjoyed this video, thank you for staying with us. Give us a big thumbs up because we really appreciate that. And if you're able to, we still appreciate all your subscribes. So just hit that button and join the channel, and that way you get all of the updates when the new episodes arrive. So thanks once again for sticking with us, and we'll see you next week.